an easy shot, 200 yards as a sniper, which I am. You pick which nostril you want and I'll put it in it. For me, I mean, it was off it right from the beginning for me. Why did his shirt move the way it did? It was, well, he was obviously wearing body armor and it was deflection. No. Why were people being interviewed saying, yeah, they came from my left to right, from his right to left? The official story sounds like it needs to be investigated, but now, the whole...
The internet didn't just react, it erupted. Tonight, we break down the claim that Piers Morgan is hinting at something bigger, that Charlie Kirk's widow might not be telling the full story. We're not confirming any of this. We're analyzing what's being said, what's being questioned, and why the conversation won't die down. Viewers are replaying the viral moment frame by frame, pointing to a too calm interview, a timeline that feels overly tidy, and a cleanup that some say happened way too fast. Something's off, one trending post insists. It looks too perfect, another replies. Piers enters like a spark in a powder room, suggesting the official picture might be missing crucial pieces. And suddenly, fans, critics, even longtime allies are split. A whisper turns into a roar. Was it quiet strength or curated restraint? Did the angles match the narrative, or did the narrative bend the angles? Again, these are questions flooding social feeds, not verified conclusions. But the heat is real. DMs, podcasts, reaction streams. Everyone's hunting for the detail that flips the whole thing on its head. And as emotions run high, one line keeps echoing. If the truth is solid, why does it feel so carefully staged? Tonight, we follow the smoke. It started quietly, almost too quietly for a story that would soon dominate every screen in the country. What began as a calm follow-up interview turned into a national obsession when Piers Morgan, known for his sharp tongue and fearless questioning, hinted that something about Charlie Kirk's tragedy didn't add up. People had already been uneasy, dissecting the footage, debating timelines, comparing witness accounts. But when Piers spoke, the atmosphere shifted from curiosity to confrontation. He didn't accuse anyone directly, but his tone said enough. He asked why the statements sounded rehearsed, why the scene was cleared so fast, and most of all, why Charlie's widow appeared so calm when the world expected visible grief. The internet caught that single phrase, too composed, and ran with it. Suddenly, her silence became the loudest sound on social media. The clip of her interview replayed endlessly across platforms. Viewers slowed down every blink, every twitch, every breath, searching for emotion that wasn't there. Some called her graceful, strong, and dignified. Others called her cold, calculating, detached. One popular post said, "She's not crying because she already knows too much." Another countered, "She's holding it together because the world is watching." And in the middle of it all stood Piers, feeling the storm with his questions about inconsistencies that, according to him, no one seemed eager to address. He wondered out loud why certain camera angles were missing from the broadcast and why witnesses kept changing details in their recollections. One said the sound came from the left side of the venue, another swore it came from behind. These gaps turned the tragedy into a labyrinth of speculation. At first, the widow tried to stay out of the noise. She posted a short message thanking supporters and asking for privacy. But the internet doesn't respect silence. Every word was picked apart. Every punctuation mark became evidence for or against her innocence. Fans of Charlie Kirk defended her fiercely, saying she was being hunted by people who couldn't handle a woman staying strong in public. Others said she was hiding behind politeness, masking secrets beneath her calm voice. Talk shows grabbed the debate, spinning it into late-night fuel. One host said, "There's a fine line between composure and concealment, and she's walking it perfectly." Overnight, she went from a grieving wife to the center of a psychological mystery. Piers Morgan, never one to let go once he smelled contradiction, brought in experts to discuss the strange details. A former Navy SEAL described how precision and body movement can tell more than words ever could. He talked about angles, fabric folds, the way weight shifts when impact occurs. His analysis suggested something about the footage didn't align with the official explanation. That single segment sent hashtags soaring. People began comparing screenshots, using digital tools to trace the way Charlie's shirt folded in that final moment. Hundreds of posts appeared claiming to reveal proof that the official story couldn't be right. Meanwhile, others accused Piers of exploiting grief for clicks and ratings, calling him insensitive and reckless. He responded simply, asking questions isn't disrespect, it's journalism. The debate, however, had already outgrown him. In group chats and podcasts, the conversation turned personal. Friends of the Kirks family spoke cautiously, saying they didn't want to add to the speculation, but admitted that things felt strange. One family acquaintance said the timeline never made sense, that certain calls were made hours before authorities arrived. People began constructing narratives, some wild, some believable, connecting dots that might not even exist. Emotional exhaustion spread across the family. Reports said the widow had stopped responding to messages, isolating herself inside the family home. A neighbor mentioned seeing lights on all night, as if someone couldn't sleep or didn't want to. Meanwhile, networks aired endless debates about whether grief could ever look normal. Psychologists explained that shock can freeze emotion, but the audience wasn't listening anymore. They wanted drama, and they got it. Across social media, fan accounts that once posted motivational clips of Charlie now became virtual detective boards. Lines connected screenshots, red circles marked shadows and reflections, and captions promised hidden truths. One influencer even claimed to have spoken to an anonymous insider who hinted at a missing piece of evidence. Whether that was real or fabricated, no one could tell, but it kept people watching. Every day brought new videos titled "What Piers Morgan Saw" or "The Frame They Don't Want You to Notice." The widow's name trended alongside words like mystery, cover-up, and silence. Public sympathy turned into suspicion, and suspicion evolved into entertainment. What made the situation worse was the speed at which official statements kept changing. First, authorities said everything was accidental. Later, they mentioned unusual activity around the site. Then came a correction saying those reports were unrelated. Each shift fueled the feeling that truth was slipping away, replaced by fragments designed to calm the public. Piers Morgan called it the fog of information, saying too many people were speaking too quickly, while the ones who truly knew something said nothing at all. He aired clips from press conferences, slowing down pauses, analyzing tone, making his audience question whether they were hearing honesty or careful performance. The widow eventually broke her silence with a longer interview. Her voice was steady, her answers short, her hands perfectly still. "People grieve differently," she said softly. "Mine just happens to be quiet." The moment she said it, half the internet applauded her strength, and the other half claimed it was scripted. A small smile she gave near the end became a meme within hours. One caption read, "The smile that hides everything." Piers discussed that interview on his show the next night. "She's calm, she's composed, but is she transparent? I'm not sure anyone can tell anymore." From that point on, the story stopped belonging to the people involved. It belonged to the audience. Millions of strangers pieced together theories like a collective screenplay. Some claimed they heard background noises that were never mentioned in the reports. Others compared the timing of lights flickering on stage to hand movements in the crowd. Online investigators began charting timelines with colored markers, trying to reconstruct every second of the event. A single freeze frame of the widow glancing sideways became evidence for dozens of contradictory explanations. It no longer mattered what was true. What mattered was whose version sounded most compelling. Piers Morgan, watching this circus unfold, didn't slow down. He released another commentary where he emphasized again that he wasn't making accusations, only observations. But his words, intentionally or not, kept sparking new waves of debate. "Truth should never be afraid of questions," he said, and those words became the battle cry for his followers. He insisted that his role was to push back against neat narratives, not to condemn anyone. But in the emotionally charged world of modern media, intentions rarely matter more than impact. Soon, fans and critics alike were quoting him out of context, shaping his comments into whatever message they wanted to believe. Even celebrities began to weigh in. Joe Rogan mentioned the case on his podcast, calling the inconsistencies weird. Candace Owens described it as a reflection of how image management has replaced honesty. These reactions added more gasoline to an already burning fire. Every new voice gave the story a new twist. What was once a single tragedy had now evolved into a cultural debate about truth, transparency, and the performance of grief. The widow remained silent. Reporters camped outside her home, but she refused to open the door. Friends said she was tired, that she wanted peace. But peace was impossible when the world wanted confession. Behind the scenes, insiders claimed that Piers had received private messages from people connected to the investigation, suggesting that key evidence had been handled improperly. Again, nothing confirmed, just whispers. But whispers were enough. Headlines appeared across blogs. Piers Morgan hints at missing files. Within hours, television panels debated whether he was a truth seeker or an opportunist. He didn't deny or confirm any leaks, keeping the air of mystery alive. In doing so, he guaranteed that the story would stay at the top of every feed for days. By the end of that week, emotions had spilled into the streets. Supporters held vigils demanding transparency, while critics accused the media of exploiting grief. Two worlds clashed, those who wanted answers and those who wanted the noise to stop. Piers addressed this divide on air, calling it the tragedy after the tragedy. He said people were no longer united by grief, but divided by their versions of it. And that observation hit home. It wasn't just a case anymore. It was a reflection of how society processes pain through screens, reactions, and hashtags. As days passed, old friends of Charlie began giving interviews, each adding their own perspective. One claimed he'd noticed tension between Charlie and his wife weeks before. Another swore they were perfectly happy. The contradictions only deepened the mystery. Piers Morgan played those clips back to back on his show, highlighting how truth seemed to shift depending on who was speaking. It's like reality is elastic now, stretched by emotion and pulled by agenda, he said quietly. The audience listened, divided but fascinated. And somewhere in the middle of that noise, the widow's silence grew heavier. As if the quieter she became, the louder the world demanded she speak. The noise didn't die down. It only evolved. What began as public curiosity had turned into a full-blown national fixation. Every podcast, every live stream, every panel show was dissecting the same question in 1,000 different ways. What did Piers Morgan actually mean when he implied the widow wasn't telling the full story? The phrasing had been careful, almost surgical. He never said she lied. He said she might not be saying everything. Those words walked the thin line between observation and accusation, and people clung to them like a script for their own theories. By now, even casual viewers had opinions. At coffee shops, offices, and family dinners, the conversation always looped back to the same uneasy topic. Was there more to it? The widow, still refusing interviews, became a mystery no one could resist solving. Tabloid photographers camped outside her residence for hours, capturing every flicker of movement. An open curtain, a visitor leaving the gate, the reflection of her shadow against the wall. These small, meaningless fragments became headlines. "She's hiding something," one tabloid wrote. Another claimed she's living in fear. Both sold equally well. Television anchors debated her facial expressions during old interviews, pausing the footage at precise seconds to analyze micro-reactions that might suggest guilt, denial, or exhaustion. Psychologists were invited to give professional opinions, though most admitted that body language, without context, meant nothing. But the internet wasn't waiting for science. It already had its verdicts. Piers, meanwhile, kept his composure. On his next broadcast, he addressed the chaos he'd helped spark. People are asking questions, he said, leaning back in his chair, and they deserve answers. That's not accusation, that's accountability. It was the kind of sentence that left enough ambiguity to ignite fresh debate. Within hours, his clip was circulating everywhere. One camp hailed him as a fearless truth seeker. The other accused him of fueling speculation for ratings. He's throwing matches into gasoline and then pretending to be surprised by the fire, one commentator said. But the fire at this point had a life of its own. That night, new footage surfaced online. Grainy, low resolution, allegedly showing the moments right before the incident. No one could confirm where it came from, yet it exploded across platforms. Blurry silhouettes, indistinct voices, flashes of light. None of it clear, all of it open to interpretation. Some claimed it proved there was interference. Others said it was nothing more than a camera glitch. Piers addressed the clip cautiously. "I'm not saying it's real," he began, "but I am saying we need to ask who benefits from dismissing it so quickly." Again, another careful balance of skepticism and provocation. That single statement gave life to an entire wave of new theories. Hashtags shifted from "what happened" to "what's being hidden." In the background, close friends of the Kirk family were reaching their breaking point. One of them, speaking under anonymity, told a podcast host that the pressure on the widow was unbearable. She hadn't left her home in days. Every time she opened her phone, she was bombarded with strangers accusing her of everything from deceit to conspiracy. But empathy struggled to compete with entertainment. The story had become too profitable, too addicting. News outlets scheduled entire segments around her silence. Even her refusal to respond became another plot point. Piers Morgan, aware of the rising tension, tried to pivot the conversation. He invited forensic experts onto his show to focus on the investigation itself, rather than personal speculation. But even that attempt backfired. One of the experts, a retired investigator named Joseph Morgan, mentioned that inconsistencies in the timeline should not be dismissed. Those words were enough to spark a new flood of content. Within hours, online users edited and re-uploaded the interview, cutting out every sentence except that one. Soon it circulated with sensational captions like "forensics confirming consistencies." The truth that Joseph Morgan had said.
By the next day, the story had reached a fever pitch. Podcasts streamed live for hours. Viewers sending in theories, screenshots, and voice notes, claiming to have insider knowledge. A few channels even played with voice-cloned audio, presenting fake, leaked calls to boost engagement. None of it verified, all of it captivating. And through it all, Piers kept walking the fine line. He reminded his audience repeatedly that he wasn't claiming anything, only analyzing what the public was already saying. "We're here to discuss the conversation," he said during one broadcast, "not to decide the truth." But his calm tone only made people believe there was something bigger behind the curtain. In an unexpected twist, a former colleague of Charlie Kirk appeared on a late-night panel and made a cryptic remark. He said Charlie had been under stress in the weeks leading up to the event, though he didn't explain why. That single sentence opened another door of speculation. Was the pressure professional, political, or personal? The internet filled in the blanks with wild creativity. One rumor claimed that Charlie's foundation was facing internal conflict. Another insisted that a close friend had betrayed him days before the incident. None of it confirmed. Yet, each thread pulled the story in a new direction. The widow's silence became heavier, almost symbolic. Talk show desks described it as strategic restraint. Others said it was a sign she was preparing a public statement. One entertainment blogger claimed to have sources saying she was in talks for a televised interview. But when networks were asked, no one could confirm. Still, the rumor gained traction. Posts with titles like, "She's finally breaking her silence," racked up millions of views despite no actual announcement. Piers, in one of his monologues, commented, "Silence can mean peace, but sometimes it also means calculation." And that line, clipped out of context, reignited the frenzy. A week later, things took a darker turn. A supposed insider leaked the document alleging that certain items from the scene were never logged properly. Again, there was no verification. The document had blurred logos and unclear signatures, but the internet treated it like gospel. "Proof they're hiding something," one user wrote. Piers addressed the leak cautiously, saying, "If this is real, it raises serious questions." Critics pounced on him for platforming unverified material, while supporters praised him for refusing to ignore potential evidence. His ratings surged. Amid the uproar, mental health advocates began speaking out, warning that the online scrutiny could lead to real harm. A psychologist interviewed by a morning show said, "This is digital grief cannibalism. The public is feeding on speculation." Yet even that statement became part of the content cycle. Quoted, reshared, memed, influencers made reaction videos dissecting her words, some agreeing, others mocking. The story had escaped its original frame. It wasn't about Charlie anymore, nor his widow, nor Piers. It was about the audience itself, their hunger for drama disguised as justice. One evening, Piers released an unscripted monologue addressing his critics. He said, "People accuse me of fanning the flames, but I didn't light the fire. I just pointed where the smoke was coming from." His tone was both defensive and deliberate, knowing it would be replayed endlessly. He added, "When public trust is broken, silence looks suspicious. And that's not her fault. It's the fault of the system that hides behind polished statements." It was a rhetorical move, but it worked. Overnight, sympathy for the widow began to mix with renewed distrust toward official institutions. The story mutated again, no longer about one woman's silence, but about whether anyone could trust authority anymore. The following morning, a journalist posted screenshots claiming that certain key footage from the event had been removed from an online archive. The footage was later restored, but for a few hours, that disappearance was all anyone talked about. "Proof of a cover-up," headlines screamed. "Temporary server issue," officials replied. But the damage was done. People didn't care about corrections. They cared about the thrill of suspicion. Piers commented dryly, "Funny how data always goes missing right when the world wants transparency." That single sentence, delivered with his trademark smirk, spread faster than the truth ever could. By then, viewers weren't watching for facts. They were watching for feelings. The debate had turned into serialized drama. Who would speak next? Who would slip up? And through it all, Piers remained the narrator, guiding millions through an endless maze of questions he never claimed to answer. His words echoed one final time that week. Maybe she's innocent. Maybe she's hiding something. Maybe it's both. But the real mystery isn't what happened. It's why no one wants to look too closely. That line ended his broadcast, but for the public, it only marked the beginning of another sleepless night of scrolling, speculating, and search.
The next phase of the story felt like something out of a psychological thriller. Everyone thought it had reached its peak, but it was only shifting into a darker, more personal stage. What had once been a media storm was now eating away at the people at the center of it. The widow's name had become a trending topic for weeks straight, sometimes attached to sympathy, other times to suspicion. Every move she made seemed like a statement. Every absence felt like a confession. When she didn't attend a memorial event held in her husband's honor, social media erupted. One side said she was protecting her privacy. Another said she was avoiding scrutiny. Within hours, hashtags questioning her motives went viral.
It didn't matter what her reasons were. The narrative had already been written by strangers. That night, Piers Morgan returned with another broadcast, one that felt quieter but heavier. He began by replaying clips from the memorial, faces blurred, candles flickering in the dark. Then he paused, his voice low. "This isn't about blaming anyone," he said slowly. "It's about why the truth keeps slipping through our fingers." He pointed out new contradictions in the official statements, moments where timelines didn't align, and the way certain eyewitnesses had changed their phrasing in interviews. He asked why, weeks later, the public still didn't have a detailed official report. "Maybe it's bureaucracy," he said, "or maybe it's choreography." That single word, choreography, sent shockwaves across the internet. It suggested something staged, something planned. Once again, he hadn't accused anyone directly, but the seed had been planted. In response, defenders of the widow came out stronger than ever. Fan accounts posted montages of her life before the tragedy, smiling photos, charity work, public appearances. Captions read, "She's already lost enough." People wanted to humanize her again, to remind everyone that behind the theories and speculation was a real person. But their efforts barely cut through the noise. The conspiracy had momentum now. Anonymous accounts began releasing exclusive information. Screenshots of supposed text messages, edited audio files, and out-of-context quotes flooded platforms. Some even claimed to have found inconsistencies in her public statements from months prior, twisting them into supposed clues. By this point, the situation had become so chaotic that legitimate journalists started stepping back. Some news outlets stopped covering the case entirely, saying it had become impossible to separate reality from rumor. But Piers didn't back away. He doubled down, saying the silence of the media only made things worse. If truth becomes too complicated to handle, then maybe the system's afraid of what it might find, he said on his show. That line became his rallying cry. Clips of his speech circulated everywhere, overlaid with dramatic music and captions like, "Piers speaks the truth." He wasn't confirming any specific theory, but his tone suggested defiance, and the audience loved it. The widow finally resurfaced, appearing unexpectedly in a quiet televised interview. It wasn't flashy or rehearsed. She sat in a small studio, the lighting dim, her hands folded on her lap. Her first words were simple: "I've seen what's being said about me, and most of it isn't true." She explained that her silence came from exhaustion, not deception. She described waking up to messages from strangers accusing her of terrible things, of watching friends turn away out of fear of being dragged into the story. "Grief doesn't have a script," she said, eyes glistening, "and I'm sorry if mine doesn't fit what people expect." Her calm tone and trembling hands softened some hearts, but for others, it only deepened the mystery. Was it authentic emotion or a careful performance? One online comment summed up the divide perfectly. "Either she deserves an apology or an investigation. I just can't tell which." Within hours, Piers reacted to the interview on his own show. He played clips, pausing occasionally to comment. "She's poised, yes, but I can't shake the feeling that there's something unsaid." Then he added, again, not an accusation, just an observation. The phrase had become almost a ritual for him, an invisible shield that allowed speculation without crossing the line. His words reignited everything she had tried to quiet. Social media turned the interview into a spectacle, cutting out tears, looping eye movements, comparing her expressions to earlier videos. Influencers posted side-by-side breakdowns titled "The Shift in Her Tone," claiming to detect hidden meanings. Some praised her strength, others called it manipulation. A day later, new tension emerged. A leaked report, anonymous, poorly formatted, claimed that certain physical evidence had gone missing from the scene days after the event. No official source confirmed it, but the rumor caught fire. Piers mentioned it during a live taping. If that's true, he said carefully, then this story is far from over. Those words echoed across screens and headlines. Experts were called in again. One security consultant said, missing evidence doesn't always mean foul play. It can mean poor management. Another countered, or it can mean someone wanted it gone. Those opposing statements fueled another round of endless debate. Meanwhile, insiders close to the widow described her as emotionally shattered. She'd stopped leaving her home entirely. Friends said she refused to watch television or scroll through her phone. She feels like she's on trial without a courtroom, one of them told a local paper. Despite the chaos, she still hadn't released any legal response against the speculation. That in itself became a talking point. Why wasn't she fighting back? Was it because she couldn't, or because she didn't want to draw more attention? Piers touched on that too. Sometimes silence is strategy. Sometimes it's surrender. I wonder which this is. The way he said it, slow, reflective, but pointed, made it impossible for anyone to ignore. As the days passed, the story took yet another turn when a close family member broke their silence. Charlie's cousin appeared on a podcast and claimed that there were unresolved issues between Charlie and his wife before the tragedy. The host pushed for details, but the cousin refused to elaborate, saying only they were under a lot of pressure. That vague comment was enough to send social media into overdrive. Unresolved issues became the new buzz phrase, plastered over countless thumbnails and reaction videos. Piers mentioned it briefly in one of his segments, saying, "It's not uncommon for relationships to have strain, but in this case, the timing raises questions." Again, he wasn't accusing anyone, but he didn't need to. His tone did the work. What made the situation even more surreal was how divided the public had become. Entire online communities formed around opposing sides. One group called themselves Truth Keepers, devoted to exposing what they believed was a cover-up. Another group, Justice for Her, focused on defending the widow against harassment and misinformation. Their clashes filled comment sections with endless hostility, each side convinced they were protecting the real truth. Piers commented on this polarization during another broadcast. He said, "People don't want facts anymore. They want confirmation of what they already believe." Ironically, that sentence itself became a trending soundbite, remixed into dramatic edits that only amplified the division he was describing. The chaos spilled into real life. One evening, protesters gathered outside the television network headquarters, some holding candles, others holding signs that read, "We deserve answers." Reporters covering the protest described it as both emotional and unsettling. Chants mixed with tears, people shouting into cameras about justice, corruption, and the right to know. The widow's name echoed through the crowd, though many of them admitted they weren't sure what they believed anymore. They just wanted to feel part of something larger than confusion. In the following days, lawmakers even weighed in. A senator mentioned the case during a public hearing about media ethics, questioning how speculation had replaced investigation in modern reporting. "We've blurred entertainment and truth," he said, "and the victims are the people we claim to care about." Piers responded the next night, "If holding power accountable is entertainment, then maybe the truth's been boring for too long." His defiance drew applause from some and outrage from others. But that was the nature of the storm he had created. It thrived on contrast, on outrage, on emotion. Through it all, the widow remained silent. Her lawyers issued a brief statement reminding the media that no evidence had ever linked her to wrongdoing. But in the age of digital narratives, official documents didn't carry the same weight as whispers. People preferred theories over legal clarity. One fan post summed it up bitterly: "Truth doesn't trend." The tragedy had become entertainment, and no one seemed to know how to stop watching.
By the time the story reached its fourth week,
It had transformed from a single tragic incident into a cultural earthquake. The lines between fact, speculation, and performance had blurred beyond recognition. News panels still debated it nightly. Influencers turned every update into reaction clips, and millions of viewers sat behind screens refreshing pages as if waiting for the next episode of a show that never ended. But behind this spectacle, there was a growing sense of fatigue, a collective unease that something had gone too far. The widow, still hidden from the public eye, had become both a symbol and a mystery. Some saw her as a victim of a relentless digital mob. Others still whispered that her silence was proof she had something to hide. The truth, whatever it was, had vanished under layers of noise. Piers Morgan returned for another broadcast, this time opening with an unexpected tone. Gone was the sharp-edged provocateur who had fueled weeks of speculation. Instead, his voice carried a strange mix of reflection and tension. "We've been chasing this story for nearly a month," he began, "and the more we dig, the murkier it gets. Maybe this says more about us than it does about her." He paused for a moment, letting the silence stretch across the studio. The audience felt the shift. Piers, the instigator, was now questioning the very chaos he'd helped create. "People keep asking me if I think she's hiding something," he continued softly. "Honestly, I don't know anymore. Maybe she's hiding from all of us." That statement alone sent shockwaves online, not because it offered new information, but because it sounded like guilt, or maybe remorse. But that sense of calm didn't last. Hours after his broadcast, a new leak surfaced. Audio clips allegedly taken from within the event hall, revealing muffled voices and sudden commotion seconds before the tragedy. The internet devoured it instantly. Commentators slowed down the audio, amplified echoes, circled sounds that could have been anything. Piers addressed it the next night. "We can't verify it," he warned, "but it's out there, and people deserve context." He played short sections, adding commentary on tone and timing, but again, avoided making any definitive claim. Still, the very act of airing the clips reignited everything he just tried to calm. Hashtags surged again, theories multiplied, and the widow's name reappeared on trending lists worldwide. What he called context, others saw as provocation. The next day, a journalist confronted Piers outside a London studio. "You started this," she said bluntly, cameras rolling. "Don't you feel responsible for what she's going through?" Piers didn't flinch. "I didn't invent the questions," he replied. "I just refused to ignore them." His words echoed through social media, dividing opinion once more. Some called it courage, others hypocrisy. The widow's supporters accused him of emotional manipulation, of disguising entertainment as inquiry. One commentator said, "He turned grief into theater, and now he's surprised the audience won't leave." Yet, despite the criticism, Piers' ratings climbed higher than ever. The more people condemned him, the more others tuned in to see what he'd say next. Meanwhile, whispers emerged that the widow had finally hired a crisis management team. Reports suggested she was preparing a documentary to share her side of the story in full detail. The announcement, though unconfirmed, sent the internet spiraling again. Some claimed it was a redemption move. Others saw it as a calculated rebranding effort. Within hours, fake trailers and edited clips pretending to be teasers for her upcoming interview began circulating. Audiences couldn't tell what was real anymore. One viral comment read, "She doesn't even need to speak now. The internet already writes her lines." It was true. By this point, her story belonged to everyone but her. Then, unexpectedly, a second memorial was held. This time, the widow appeared. Cameras caught her walking slowly through the crowd, her head lowered, wearing all black. When she reached the podium, the noise fell silent. She spoke for the first time in weeks. "Grief has no instruction manual," she said, voice trembling. "But silence isn't guilt, it's survival." Her speech was short, raw, and without theatrics. For a brief moment, it cut through the noise. People stopped typing. Even Piers Morgan, watching live, seemed still. He later described it as the first honest moment in weeks. Yet within hours, reaction videos twisted her words again. Clips were edited, slowed down, recaptioned. Her line, "Silence isn't guilt," was looped over ominous music in conspiracy montages, while fan pages used it as a rallying cry for empathy. Both sides weaponized her pain. That night, Piers opened his show with a rare admission. "Maybe we've gone too far," he said quietly. Maybe the search for answers turned into a hunt for villains. He replayed footage of the memorial, his voice steady, but softer than usual. What started as questions about truth has turned into something darker, a mirror showing us what we've become. It was the closest he had come to acknowledging his role in the storm. But even then, his viewers debated whether it was genuine reflection or another calculated performance. One critic wrote, "Piers Morgan's remorse is his best headline yet." The widow's team released a statement soon after, thanking those who had supported her and condemning the spread of misinformation. She didn't mention Piers by name, but the message was clear. The speculation had caused real harm. In an ironic twist, the very platforms that had fueled the fire began policing their own users. Several viral videos were taken down for spreading false claims. But even that censorship reignited debate. Was it protecting truth or silencing free speech? Piers commented again, saying control of information is the new frontier of power. And just like that, the story found new life under a different name: freedom versus manipulation. Weeks later, the frenzy finally began to fade. Newer controversies took over, as they always do. The algorithms shifted, the headlines moved on, and the world's attention scattered. But traces of the saga remained: a shattered reputation, a fractured audience, and a lingering distrust in anything labeled official. Analysts later called it the case that proved chaos sells. Journalism professors dissected it in lectures about ethics, social media, and the psychology of collective hysteria. Everyone had learned something, but no one could say exactly what. As the dust settled, Piers Morgan sat down for an interview of his own. When asked whether he regretted implying that Charlie Kirk's widow wasn't telling the full story, he hesitated for the first time. "Regret," he said slowly. "I regret that people stopped listening for truth and started listening for drama. But maybe," he paused, "that's what the truth has to compete with now." His answers summed up the entire saga: evasive, reflective, and self-aware all at once. By then, the widow had disappeared completely from public view. Her social media accounts were inactive, her house sold quietly, her name rarely mentioned. People speculated about where she'd gone, but no one really knew. Every few months, a blurry photo surfaced online, claiming to show her living abroad under a new name. Each time it went viral, reigniting curiosity for a few days before fading again. The story had become folklore, a digital ghost that refused to die completely. In the end, no new evidence ever surfaced, no official correction changed the narrative. The questions Piers raised were never answered definitively, and maybe they never would be. The tragedy remained locked between fact and feeling, caught in the fog of an audience that wanted both truth and entertainment, but couldn't tell them apart. What started as an investigation became an obsession, and what began as silence ended as noise. And somewhere between the two, the real story, the human one, was lost. And that's where it all stands. A whirlwind of questions, emotions, and half-truths that no one seems able to untangle. Piers Morgan might have walked away from the fire he lit, but the smoke still lingers. Was he uncovering something that needed to be said, or just feeding a system that thrives on suspicion? And what about the widow? Did her silence protect her peace, or did it only make her a target? No one can say for sure, and maybe that's what keeps people coming back. The story isn't just about one family anymore. It's about all of us. How we consume headlines, how we judge emotions, and how quickly curiosity turns into chaos. If you followed this far, you already know that the line between truth and perception has never been thinner. The internet can make anyone a hero or a villain in a matter of hours, and sometimes the real story gets buried under the noise. But what do you think? Was Piers right to ask those questions, or did he cross the line? Was the calm composure of Charlie Kirk's widow quiet strength or quiet strategy? Share your thoughts below because your voice shapes how these stories live on. And before you go, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive into the headlines that have the world talking.